Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1. Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
All right, sorry about the delay, kids, but we are here, and it is a Victory Monday here on the J.P. Peterson Show. Cannot wait to get into this game. Many of you may not like my take on said game yesterday, but we can debate it, and we look forward to the conversation. Matt Matera from the Pewter Report will join us at 11 o'clock, and also Dave Archer from Falcons Radio will join us. He called the game for Falcons Radio yesterday. We'll get his take on Desmond Ridder, Baker Mayfield, what the Falcons have to do the rest of the way if they can get back in it. If the Bucs are going to go on a 4, 5, 6 game run here at the end of the season, seems unlikely, but we'll talk all about it. It's one of those things when you win a game, you feel like, oh, all right, we're good. We're going to win the rest of them. And when you lose, it's like, yeah, wow, we're really a bad football team. I'll say good morning to you, Nick Gaddis from On3 Sports. How's your Victory Monday going?
It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I'm still trying to wrap my head around who this Bucs team is.
Yeah.
I don't think collectively we could probably all agree we can't figure this team out.
Your volume's a little low, by the way. It sounds like you're off mic. If that's a thing.
Let me move it closer there.
Yeah, give me a lot closer there.
But yeah, we can't really figure out this Bucs team at this point. I will say winning tends to cover up a lot of the issues more often than not. And I think that was the case yesterday because for 55 minutes, and maybe even longer than that, to be honest with you, that was ugly.
Yeah, it was.
That was ugly NFC South football for both teams.
Yeah, it was. And that's what I'm going to get in. By the way, your mic's still a little bit low there. If you can jack it up a little bit, Nick. Yeah, that's what we're going to get into right off the bat. And watching this offense, and this is, something we talk about a lot on the show. We don't want the narrative to change in any major fashion because of the outcome of the game. Okay, the game is still the game. What happened for 60 minutes, you can't replace what happened for 58 by the last 2.5 for this offense. This offense was effing dreadful yesterday. Probably the worst I've seen it all year. And when you look at the 29 points, let's remember 9 of those points are directly from the defense with the CD3 pick and the safety, and some other good field position helps. I mean, the bottom line is this offense had 89 yards in the first half, 85 yards total in the first half. Baker Mayfield could not hit the broadside of a freaking barn. He and his receivers are so off page for this to be week 14, and these guys can't execute a simple out pattern for the most part, or a post or a corner pattern. Our angles are still off. The routes are not precise. The balls are inaccurate. Is dreadful. And that said, there were some bright spots for Rashad White, certainly in the run game. But you also have to look at Atlanta, which was an extremely depleted team. Now, you could also say the Bucs were depleted because they didn't have Vita Vea, and that's true. That hurts. They were also depleted by not having Devin White. That helps. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Jamel Dean, we honestly can say we're fine with him or without him. That was clearly an awful expenditure of money in the offseason to spend that much money to keep a guy that's really not a difference maker on any level. Can cover guys, can run with guys, but is not a playmaker, does not have a great football IQ, can't catch the football, certainly not worth the money that the Bucs are paying him. So we learned a lot of different things in this game, but what continues to bother me is the play of Baker Mayfield. He is not as mobile as he was early in the year, and that's a huge part of his game. And that he made, if you go back in that 3-1 start, he made some incredible plays on third down, escaping the pocket and making big plays. He's not able to do that anymore with either his ankle is bad, which I think it is. I think he's still hurting. He just doesn't have that little extra burst. And when, and I'm sitting there watching Baker Mayfield, I'm going, okay, he's not big, So he's not a precise passer over the top, middle of the field. He's not a great thrower of the football in that realm. He can throw to the outsides pretty well. When he gets outside, when he gets throwing lanes, when he has a great running game, things start to happen when they can do waggles and things like that, but they can't do that anymore. Teams are making him play from the pocket. And you say, well, he's small, but he's fast. He can run. No, really can't do that either. He's very limited right now. He's very limited in what he can do. And Baker's always going to be that guy. When things around him are good, he can really flourish. When he has to be challenged, when things are taken away from him, he can't elevate everybody else. And that's just who he is. I love his fight. I love his competitiveness. I think he's the reason we won this game, because he keeps his head in the game. And if he has one last gasp of breath left, he's going to use it. And I think that was a huge reason. The competitiveness from this team, defensively and offensively, was remarkable. This really felt like a team that understood this was the last stand. This was the last moment. You lose this game, the season's over, and they didn't want it to end. That's a great sign. That's a great sign. And if you watched after the game, Todd Bowles' victory speech, he has not lost this room. He has not lost this room. I don't think they're accountable to him like they should be. They're not. And that's the player's fault. That's the coach's fault. That's the culture. That's clear that they don't pay attention to details, especially offensively. And that just kills them. Defensively, they're starting to get players in the right space. Now, you're still having terrible mistakes. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka can't get Desmond Ridder to the ground. I mean, my God, on that play. Just absolutely terrible. And you're seeing, bad tackling here and there. Brain farts in the Kyle Pitts touchdown. Once again, we have a major coverage bust, and there were many major coverage busts again for this team, week 14. You line up, Nick, 9 players. You don't have a linebacker in the game on the goal line. Now, imagine if we lose this game. If the Bucs don't make that 4th down and 1 on that final drive and they lose this game, what are we talking about here today? How does the narrative change? We're talking about 9 guys on the field.
Yeah, we're talking about 9 guys on the field. We're talking about mismanagement of situations.
Yes.
We're talking about all those things. And listen, I don't think just because they won the game, we still can't talk about those things.
No, exactly. Don't let the narrative change because of the result of the game. At least our narrative, what the majority of the narrative.
I see a lot of people. Bucs Twitter was interesting last night and this morning because you almost have like a split fan base. There's like one part of the fan base that wants to win at all costs and let's get into the playoffs. You never know what could happen. And like, they're tired of losing and that mentality. And I understand that, quite frankly. And I don't disagree with you. There's not a right answer here. But there's another part of the fan base who I would argue is a little bit more realistic right now of who this team is and where they are. And that might say, okay, get into the playoffs with your 8 wins, your 9 wins, and it's a participation trophy because you're not winning a playoff game against Dallas or Philly or San Francisco, whoever it ends up you having to play, right? Yep. So it was interesting yesterday. I think there were probably Bucs fans yesterday that were rooting for the team to lose.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like that was a thing. And that's your prerogative. That's your right to feel like that if you want, because you want the draft pick and all that, and that's fine. But they won the game somehow. They're in first place in the division, and by a tiebreaker, right? I believe they just owned the tiebreaker over Atlanta and New Orleans.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's something to say about that they won't let their season end.
Yeah.
And it's December football, and this is when you have to start kind of playing your best. Now, they're not playing their best, but they're 2 for 2 in the results column. But the thing is, the wins that they're picking up, they're playing teams that are in their wheelhouse right now. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Carolina, a 3-point win. Yeah. Not really thrilled by that one. And then this win right here. And by the way, even when the Bucs took the lead there at the end of the game, don't tell me it didn't cross your mind.
Oh, God, I thought
the Falcons couldn't go right down the field. And by the way, they got 4 yards short. Yeah. They got 4 yards short. The Bucs defense, which is just completely chaotic right now in every sense, still managed to make that interesting.
Yeah, of course, because what's Bowles doing? He's rushing 3 guys.
Right.
He has had them bottled up all game long. Ritter is confused, doesn't know where they're coming from. They got 4 new offensive linemen in there. And when it counts the most, what do? We back off.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
And use your great cover guys. I mean, how many times have you been beaten? Again, don't let the outcome change the narrative.
Yeah.
If Drake London breaks a tackle there, and I know it's an if, and you're stacking guys on the line, I don't care. There was too much in that. They don't get it. I think there was a big penalty on that drive as well. And you're just how are you, in God's name, are you rushing 3 in that situation? How they've got their offensive linemen are completely confused.
It's a mismanagement of situations and crunch time typically where this team continues to. I just can't figure it out. And even going into half, we talk about is Todd Bowles going to keep his timeouts? You're damn right he's going to keep his timeouts. They got the ball back with like 2:20 left, I think, and they decide to run. They take it all the way down to the 2-minute warning. They come out of the 2-minute warning, run. Yeah. Run, pass. That was like a big theme yesterday, and that's part of the reason I think yesterday.
High school offense.
Yeah, yesterday was the biggest game, the biggest moment of the season where I looked at Dave Canales. I'm like, man, what are you doing?
It's terrible.
Like you've got to figure it out. We're in week 14, and then the 4th down call that comes in here now. The 4th down call on 4th and 2. I love the aggressiveness. Please go for it.
No, Bowles makes the right call on 4th down. There's no question about it. But you got 4th and a long one, like at least full 2 yards. 4th and 2, a full 2 yards. And you line up in this condensed formation where you've got all 11 guys within about 15 yards wide. About 15 yards wide. You've got 11 guys. So guess what the defense is going to do? I counted them. There are 10 guys within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. 10 guys. And you're going to go toss, sweep to the short side? I mean, like people falling over drunk are going to get in the way of the play. I mean, you just, there's too many people within that space where, I mean, this is what drives me nuts sometimes about play callers is they look at the whiteboard and they go X, 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 X. Okay. So we got enough guys over here if every guy gets his block, if every man gets his block, if not one defensive player wins, we might get that yard. It was 2 yard and a half, 2 yards, dude. And then of course, Mike Evans just completely whiffs on his block to set the edge. And the play is going up. So your call was, I'm going to get Mike Evans on a linebacker here for the key block on the play, and that's going to be that's a great enough matchup in my favor that this play is going to work. Right. I mean, think about that. Think about that. What the F are you doing? What the F are you doing? How is that playing into your strengths against their weakness?
Well,
Dave Canales, please explain to me the concept of that play on 4th and 2, where you feel, okay, we have an advantage here. This is how what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. You take the win. Yes, you don't apologize for winning games in the NFL. And there's always a few plays they always say either way that determine the outcome of the game.
Right.
The Bucs are in this game. I mean, the Falcons. Let's not act like the Falcons didn't falcon their way to a loss here in certain respects. I mean, you have the most accurate kicker of all time, missed not one, but 2 field goals. I mean, we usually don't see that. The Bucs typically have every other kicker just nails all their field goals against them.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened. I mean, Ritter had the strip sack, which fantastic play from Antoine Winfield Jr. Of course, he's the playmaker here. I mean, there were some other moments the Falcons, I thought, didn't take advantage of their opportunities too, and I know that goes on for every game, but I think as much as the Bucs give them credit for hanging in there and not rolling over, because we've seen them do that before, but this unit, I mean, again, I'm trying to give them credit, but be realist here, so bear with me as I try to make it all make sense, because there's so many layers to all this. But even at the end of the game there, after they scored, when JTS lost contain and Ritter runs it in, and the Bucs get the ball back, you know, Baker Mayfield, I think, had gone a stretch where he had only completed 1 pass in his last 7 or 8. And it's like, man, this guy's just lost right now. Like, he doesn't have it. And then it just out of nowhere, he throws one of his best passes as a Buck to Chris Godwin, who he had no connection with all game long, has had hardly any connection with all season. Throws an absolute seed to him.
On 3rd and 10.
On 3rd and 10, the balls to throw that there. And then he hits K. Dot, and it's like a kind of the same thing that they did against Houston, where Cade
Yeah.
Otton's the guy who's in the clutch all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's something to that. If there's anything about Baker Mayfield, when you talked about his play, Baker Mayfield, I thought yesterday you can make an argument that was his worst game
Yes.
for the first 59 minutes in a Buccaneer uniform.
Yeah.
But when it got to the final minute, I mean, how do you argue it? He made the throws you needed to win, and I will compliment that guy for his mental state. Like when he's not going well and he's throwing some passes that are just not even close, but it doesn't stop him from continuing to just fire it in there. He's almost got that Jameis quality to him.
Yeah.
Like he has a lot of confidence in himself. So and you need that. So
Well,
I'll give Baker his props for that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I said in the beginning, I love his competitiveness, but it's also 3rd and 10. You got to throw the ball. You have to make that throw. And that's the mentality that I would like to see this offense play with the whole damn game.
I'd like to see him do that earlier in the game.
Exactly. That's my point.
The drive before that, the Mike Evans no call on the close call on the touchdown.
Yeah.
If Baker Mayfield sees it, 2, 3, 4 seconds earlier, that he's just holding there and just holding it.
He's holding the ball.
If you throw the ball earlier, it's a touchdown.
Yeah.
Like that's a big problem with Baker. He's not throwing it. He's not letting it go.
He's not letting it go.
Yeah. He's not.
That's my point.
And
if he plays like he's a touchdown down with 2 minutes to go and he's got nothing to lose, he's going to throw some more picks. There's no question about that. But he's going to throw a lot more touchdowns, and his offense is going to move. Listen, I know everybody talks about turnovers, and defensive coaches especially talk about turnovers. I get it. But you also have to understand that you have to put the ball in danger sometimes in order to move the ball down the field. You have to throw with confidence. You have to throw. You can't be afraid to throw picks. You think Josh Allen is afraid to throw picks? No.
No.
And you can bitch and moan about it all you want, but he's still one of the best, most effective quarterbacks in the game. And he throws picks. Good quarterbacks that throw for high yards and high touchdowns usually throw picks, but they also throw for high touchdowns and high yards. You've got to have a balance. Very rarely are you going to get
Tom Brady's got 212 interceptions. I think if I've got that right in his entire career, 212 interceptions. Okay. Aaron Rodgers, I don't even know if he's thrown 100 in his entire career.
Right.
And you know what his undoing usually is? And why he only has one Super Bowl? It's because he's not aggressive enough in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So, there's two sides to it there.
Exactly. So he's got to, if he's going to survive, he's got to play with more guts throughout this. And I know, because I could see it in the first part of the game. I mean, you saw on the replays, and when you go to the all 22, you see it all the time. When he hits his back foot, guys are open. Guys are NFL open. They're NFL open. They're not college open, but they're NFL open. He knows what that is. I mean, Mike Evans is 3 and 4 yards clear on a comeback route. But if you wait that half a second, he ain't open anymore.
Yeah.
And Baker knows this. For some reason,
an excuse.
He's not pulling the trigger.
Right. And for Mike,
you got to throw with anticipation.
So Mike to have one catch yesterday and 3 or 4 targets. Listen, I'm aware the Falcons were doing everything they could. And I was even hearing people that were up there were saying that they were doubling him more than other teams usually do. I get that.
Yeah.
It's still not an excuse not to get the guy involved and to give that guy a shot.
But even when they showed that little replay package, I think at halftime or at the end of the half of Mike running his routes, and they said they're double teaming, but at least I think they showed like 6 routes. At least 4 or 5 of those, he was open. He was open on the break.
Yeah,
if you're throwing it with
getting open, but Baker's just not seeing it, and it's the same thing. I think that was happening with Chris Godwin earlier in the season.
Yep.
Now Godwin, I'm not exactly going to go to bat for today because I thought he was pitiful yesterday. He
dropped.
Was pitiful.
He dropped. Yeah.
I don't know what's
He's
going
dropped
on there.
more balls and just contested catches that he always makes.
In traffic. He
always makes those. That's why I've always said he's one of the best in the game because, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh, how's he get? And he comes up with it. He just contorts his body.
And he still gives you that at some points, but it's just they're very few and far between of him making those special grabs that we used to see him make.
Yeah, in the last 3 or 4 games, but this was one of them. At the end of the game, that was a contested play where he went up and got his body. He wasn't that open.
Yeah,
he was
that's
barely
Chris
open.
Godwin right there. But
that's
then you have
quintessential Chris Godwin.
But then you have that crosser earlier in the game on 3rd down. They threw it about a yard or 2 below the sticks, and it hits him right here, like in his stomach, and he just
it's not an easy catch because it's below the waist while you're running. but that's
this is
catches
a
he
$20
makes.
million receiver
Yeah,
that we've
yeah,
seen
he
make
makes those
over and
catches
over.
in his sleep. Yeah, and so, yeah, there's something that ain't right with Chris right now, and that neck injury could very much be it. Because if you can't move your neck like you're normally used to, and your eyes can't go to where they need to go to make those catches, I think it's definitely plausible that that's affecting him. I don't think there's any question about that. But
And I think
it's
a lot of
easier when
this-
balls are higher than when they're lower. If you're lower and you got a neck injury, but if you're
Right.
higher, yeah, it's easier. No
And
question.
I think a lot of this contributed to what we saw yesterday in that I thought there was a point where Canales seemed to lose trust in his passing offense.
Oh, yeah.
For a little bit. I thought he went away from it rather quickly.
Yeah.
And it was just, we were seeing the robotic runs over and over.
Because he sees what we're seeing. Where some people are seeing, and it's hard to really see it on TV because you don't see the patterns downfield. And
Right.
God, I hate these directors and producers that don't show you how the pattern is developed after a play when a quarterback is holding the ball. Can I just see the all 22 to see how the route combinations came together and if anybody was open? Because we can't see that. And you don't see it until this afternoon. I'll go look at it. But that's just telling me. But every time I did see it, guys were open on the back foot. And
Right.
I don't know if Baker just can't see over the guys and he's not trusting it or what it is. But these guys are open on the play. And if Canales is seeing it, you know what? And you know what they're talking about? He was open. He was open. He's not pulling the trigger.
Correct.
He was open. He's not pulling the trigger. He was open.
Yeah.
He's not pulling the trigger. I mean, if the coaches are seeing this and saying that, well, then yeah, they got to go to the run.
Yeah, and they went to the run a lot, and it was still though frustrating to watch because again, there's just a lack of creativity in the runs that they're calling here, right? And for the first 3 quarters, this was interesting. And this was really the game right here. The first 3 quarters, the Bucs ran 22 times for 74 yards. I haven't done that math in my head yet. I think that's just a tad over 3 yards a carry.
Yeah,
right?
barely. Yeah.
Barely. Not great. But in the fourth quarter, and this is when you could tell that Bowles was sitting on that lead, and he was like, all right, run the ball. Just run the ball. That's it.
Yeah.
And they ran it 12 times in that fourth quarter, but they ran it for 71 yards.
Yeah.
I will give them this. I hate the process of all of it, of the runs, and when they're called, and the frequency in which they use them. I hate all of that. But yesterday, I'm not going to sit here and deny that in the fourth quarter, that strategy did not work. And you know who I give a lot of credit to is the offensive line.
Yeah.
The maturation of this offensive line as the year has gone on, I think has been the one thing that maybe we haven't talked about enough.
Yeah.
They have night and day difference. They've kept Baker Mayfield upright for most of the season so far. He's one of I think the least sacked quarterbacks in the league, and we've already talked about it that Baker will run himself into some of those.
Yep.
The offensive line's doing great in pass pro, but in run blocking, they've been a lot better lately. And this is now 2 100-yard games in the last 3 for Rachaad White, who I believe only had 1 before that, and that was against Seattle. It's not like the yards for carry or anything to write home about. It's not like he's getting some big splash plays, but it's just enough. It's just enough right now. Is it sustainable to being a really good team in this league? Absolutely not. But for what they are right now and the level of teams they're playing, it's good enough. So shout out to the offensive line. I thought they were the big difference in that fourth quarter the entire time.
Yeah, and go back to the screen pass that Rachaad White scores on.
Oh,
boy, that was so beautifully
blocking.
executed. I mean, first of all, Baker sells it well. Stinney kicks his guy out and stays with him. Gets that extra shove at the end to keep him from coming back and making a play on Rachaad White. Hainsey leads out in front and just obliterates that guy he's on. Malk takes his guy and literally runs with him for about 15, 20 yards down the field and stays with him. And that last shove, not only does it take him out of the play, but the safety, Bates, is coming up, and he's got to make a choice on which side he's going. And Rachaad fakes to the outside, cuts back inside, and he has to come on the other side of the block, and he's got no chance. And then Rachaad hits another gear and runs away from everybody else. That thing was a thing of beauty, and it has everything to do. First of all, Matt Filer ain't making that play. Aaron Stinney has improved this team. A lot
of what I'm talking about is
dramatically, just like Nick Leverett did in Game 8 last year. Another terrible personnel decision by Todd Bowles and Godwin and everybody in charge of the offensive line. Terrible. And this guy, Stinney, has been waiting to play. You brought this guy in. I don't know why you did it. And you already had guys that were here that were better. Terrible.
How am I surprised? But I'm not surprised
No.
by it. I watched this guy.
And that's a horrible miscalculation to have guys here.
I watched this guy step in, 4 seasons ago, I guess it's been now.
Yeah.
And down the stretch was rock solid at that position to win a Super Bowl. I mean, I watched it. So why am I supposed to be surprised that he's actually a competent guard in this league?
And you had a guy, Nick Leverett, that was playing above average football at left guard. And you're in the salary cap crunch. You go out and get this big guy who hasn't played well and certainly hasn't been great. I didn't watch the guy play the last few years, but his PFF grades weren't great. And he comes in here and he's just a big lunk. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't move anybody.
I'll probably bet he won't be in the league next year.
No, he won't. And so and you kept him there all year long, but he's terrible, just like you did last year.
Until he gets hurt. And that's
exactly.
Speaking of that, you want to talk about getting hurt and still.
Let's go. Let's move to Devin White.
It's time to address that part.
Yeah, let's move to Devin White. And I've been sitting here, for 2 years, maybe 3, telling you, turn on the tape. This guy ain't good. Every time there's a play in the red zone or key third down, who do they attack? The dumb guy, number 45, who they know is going to, they set him up every single time. And those are the games changing plays. And when that guy's getting taken advantage of and teams are just waiting for that moment to do it, to score the touchdown, to get the big first down, that's why you lose. And you know what you don't have when he's out there? That guy to pick on. You don't have your go-to trump card that you can go to because you know this play is going to work. And guess what? J.J. Russell and K.J. Britt have every time they play for Devin White, they have 7, 8 tackles, a sack, a couple of hits behind the line, doubling the production that you're usually getting from Devin White.
And at times, JP, I don't even notice them sometimes. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
They're just kind of steady.
Yeah, because you're not seeing a big play and going, oh, that was 45,
I don't
man.
see a big play happen and I go, oh, look at 45 right there. I can see it clearly on my TV screen.
Yeah.
I didn't see that with J.J. Russell last week.
Yeah.
I didn't see it K.J. Britt this week. In fact, I saw K.J. Britt make a touchdown-saving tackle on the first drive of the game when the Falcons went right down the field. Yeah. And they go Bijan Robinson, he's running there to the left pylon, and K.J. Britt, who I never thought was the fastest guy in the world. I thought this was the problem with him is he wasn't that athletic. He's more bigger. But my goodness, he ran as hard as he could from the middle of the field all the way to the sideline and was able to get Bijan Robinson. Fantastic play. And that was a big play in the game because
didn't overrun it. Didn't come in flying with his hands up high, totally out of control.
Yeah, that's a play that I've seen Devin White would not make.
That's what Devin does every single time. He runs as fast as he can with his arms up high, not breaking down, not getting in an athletic stance to make a play when the running back makes a move or the quarterback, that uber athletic quarterback, Gardner Minshew, stops on it, and runs in. It's a same, and that's just a guy trying to play for himself with his hair on fire. I'm going to show my speed, and then you just but you're not playing in control. And then you're not playing as a professional. And that's always been the problem with Devin. But here's the thing. He won't come off the field because of the coach. This is why Todd Bowles is a losing coach.
There's zero reason to put him back in there.
Zero.
If you want to use him situationally, that's fine. But to have him be the starter for the rest of the season, I think that's ridiculous. I think this 2-game stretch has told you there's no way you're re-signing this guy.
Right.
But I don't.
You didn't know already, by the way.
And it's not one of those things. Well, okay, we're not going to worry about that. We got to win games. Okay, but he's not the reason why you're winning football games, and you just went 2-0 without him. Yes, I understand the competition's not great, but I've seen Devin against bad teams play really, really bad as well. Okay, it's just who Devin White is. So I think obviously KJ Britt, JJ Russell, Servassier Dennis seems like he took a back seat yesterday, which is a little surprising, I thought, going in. But KJ performed well. I mean, they got enough guys there. I think Devin White is even more expendable today than he was yesterday. It's nothing's getting better
100%.
for him on the contract standpoint.
Yeah, 100. Well, and let's just be honest, can we? There's a lot of people around here that were beating the drum to sign Devin White. and telling me he's the best linebacker, and including the head coach, by the way, including the head coach telling you he's their best.
I think everybody who watches Buccaneer football has been. I think we all
Dude,
know who Devin
let's go
White
back
is.
and rerun that quote. Let's go back. Remember when he was defending Devin White and he literally told you he's the best football player out there? Think about that for a second. The head coach, who's the defensive mastermind, who knows defense better than any of us have ever, is sitting there telling you the guy that can't get off the block, that is completely undisciplined, that plays with terrible fundamentals, is your best player. And I'm like, how can you sit at a microphone? You want to talk about lying? You want to talk about lying, Mrs. Godwin? Go look at that quote.
Right, but don't we hear all the time that Devin is like a son to Todd Bowles out there and all those things? Yes. And my point with bringing that up,
and I don't want to get into the personal parts of that because that should never be part of the evaluation.
No, but I'm
clearly
just saying,
it is.
I know it shouldn't be a part of it, but I'm just saying if you have a relationship like that and you think of him like that, it's no different than like a father and son relationship or a parent to a kid. No matter how bad they screw up, no matter what they do, you're always going to run to their side. But
this is why.
Wrong.
This is why nepotism.
This is football, though. This is not life. It's completely different, but that's what it seems like happens in the Bucs building. Is my point.
Right, and that's why you don't coach your son in the NFL, right? It's why you don't have nepotism, because people will be going, "Why are you favoring this kid?" And then everything explodes. Everything, but it's no different. It's no different whether he's blood kin or not. Everybody knows that's your guy.
Just play the best players.
Just play the best players.
I don't care if Devin White was the 5th pick. I don't care that J.J. Russell I don't know where he went to college. I bet it's small. I don't know. I don't care. This is the NFL, and that's the great thing. The labels get ripped off the second you get out on the practice field and put on a penny for the first time. They should. And then you find out who's good, who can play, and who cannot. And I'm here to tell you that Devin White just cannot play at that level.
Yeah, and this is not a minor thing, folks. This is not a minor thing. This is a major
is a guy in the middle of your defense.
Right. It's a major deal, and it's been handicapping you forever. And here's the thing. Everybody knows it. Everybody on the defense knows it. Everybody in the league knows it. There ain't nobody paying him $11 million a year next year or $100 million. And that's why anybody's paying him. When he came with this holdout, I was like, "Are you effing kidding me?"
I don't know how to. I don't mean to be nasty about it. I'm trying not to. But
I love Devin as a person. He's a great dude.
I don't know what you'd give him. I don't know.
I wouldn't sign. He's a liability. He literally hurts your defense dramatically. And this for a coach to stand at a podium at the NFL and tell me he's the second best player on your team.
I've learned.
But I can put in a practice squad guy and your defense gets better.
Right.
Come on.
And it's not just Devin, by the way, JP, because I learned yesterday, too, and I've been learning as Jamel Dean's been out. Yeah. Zion McCollum is starting to get it.
Yeah, he is.
And he got called for some stupid PI. That was not PI.
That was ridiculous call. And we got a whole segment on officials today. So
ridiculous. But Zion McCollum has stepped up in place of Jamel Dean. I'd hate for that kid to now sit the bench because I think he needs the reps. I think he's earned the reps. And Carlton, he didn't play well yesterday either. I mean, hell, Drake London, 174 yards.
Yeah.
Crazy. They got what they wanted in the passing game. We'll get to that too.
Yeah.
But that's another position right there where I saw a young guy step up over a guy who's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And is not available right now.
And personnel decisions are everything in this league. And when you continually put the worst guys out there, it kills your culture and it kills your on-field effectiveness. It kills you two ways. And it's something that the Bucs have been suffering for a long time. All right, we'll take our first break. We'll going to get to some of the sound. We'll hear from Baker Mayfield, Todd Bowles, and some of the others as we go through the show today. Matt Matera cannot join us today from Pewter Report. He just sent me a text. He's got some other business he's got to take care of. But we will have Dave Archer from Falcons Radio at 11:30. We got plenty to say. We got plenty to get to all across the NFL. The Heisman Trophy went down this weekend. We got good Bolts news as well. Ohtani, holy shit. Ohtani's going to make more than the entire Rays roster. This is unbelievable. So that's the show coming your way. We're brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Scott Jeeves is a local guy and a great attorney, and he will go to bat aggressively for you. Has offices in St. Pete, spends a few days of the week there, and Tampa as well. He's a local guy. You'll be able to sit down with him face-to-face and get great representation. Don't be a name or a number on a huge roster of people where they're just trying to get a quick settlement with a national company. Go to somebody who cares about you. That's the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Back in 3. Stay with us. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA 2-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
Have any old coins sitting around the house? Well, the Golden Diamond Source will purchase a variety of different types of coins and bullion. Their gold buying program includes sterling silver, silver, platinum, and watches. They also accept unusual pieces that other jewelry stores do not, such as gold bars and sterling silver flatware. The list of items they do accept is far more extensive than those they don't, so check it out. While you're there, you can check out the largest collection of any family-owned jewelry store in the country, especially with summer coming to an end. The holidays are right around the corner. Never too early to start your holiday shopping, especially if you're planning on getting engaged or have any birthdays or anniversaries coming up. Come on in and find out what buying jewelry should be like with an expert staff of gold and diamond jewelry enthusiasts. And the best part, they treat you like family. And if you're worrying about price, don't. The Golden Diamond Source has something for everyone's budget. They even have a layaway. If you stop in and get your favorite piece now, you can have it paid off by Christmas. Plus, you can even finance your purchase with 0% interest for up to 5 years, and you can get a $5,000 diamond for only $83 a month. It's the greatest folks in the world, Julie and Steve Weintraub, the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Olmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. It will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
All right. Well, Fitz the mortgage guy did it again. A listener heard his ad, was going to another big bank, but called Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services of Tampa, and Fitz saved him $618 on his monthly payment. Are you kidding me? Folks, that's big money. Rates are going up, they're going down, they're going all over the place. Scott will shop your loan and save you lender fees and get the best rates. Email him, scott@amstampa.com, or call 813-294-7595. That's Fitz the mortgage guy. Lots of stuff going on right now, and these rates are going all over the place. You need somebody knowledgeable in the market that will work hard for you and get you the best deal. That's my man Scott. He's done 3 loans for me, done thousands of loans for local folks here, works with a lot of the coaches and players in the area. He's the guy. 813-294-7595, or go to scott@amstampa.com.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show with JP.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here, brought to you by one of our great new sponsors, Synovus Bank. We had John Acosta on just the other day, one of the local bosses over there, and he's the big reason that we are partnered with Synova, longtime friend of the show, and he's a local guy. That's what Synovus is trying to tell all you folks is it's a big bank, but it has a very local relationship with all of their customers. John's been at banking since 1983 here locally, so you don't stick around without doing a great job and developing great relationships like that. And that's what Synovus is all about, not just John, but all the local bankers here. They're big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or your account. And if you want a new personal banker, the app is really easy to use. You can do everything online. If you're a small or large business, they'll give you that personal touch and they'll help you build your business. So if you have some dreams and aspirations all done up on the whiteboard, they can take that and fund that for you and tell you how to give you that money up front that can help you build that business. That's what banking is all about, right? To partner together and grow. And that's what they do at Synovus. So just go to synovus.com and find the local branch near you. Give them a call. Tell them you heard it on the JP show. Heck, you can even ask for John Acosta. He'll be happy to help you out personally. And that's Synovus Bank. That's where you're going to find the local folks that really, really care. All right, back to I want to get to some of the comments here, Nick Geddes, as I think that a lot of our listeners are kind of on the same page as us. Bucs Basement says the win should not take away from the fact that this is a horribly coached team and Baker Mayfield has been atrocious for the last 3 weeks. Hard to argue with that. Ben Parrish says we are still alive. Yes, we are. And man, you look at the schedule. And, and after that win, you're like, man, I don't, thank you for that. And you say, well, yeah, we could win that game. We could win that. They're not, I don't think they're winning at Green Bay. I don't think they're beating Jacksonville, but you can beat Carolina.
Jacksonville might be a little bit more beatable right now.
Yeah.
I think they got pretender written all over them right now.
But Trevor Lawrence is back.
Didn't play good yesterday.
No, he did not. And I watched a lot of that game. And I mean, the dude is just so freaking talented. He's so talented, but man, it just doesn't look like he's getting coached up right. I don't want to put it on.
He's gone backwards this year than he was last year. There's no doubt about it.
Bucs Basement said there's no incentive to winning this trash division. You get the Cowboys, Eagles in the wild card round, mediocre draft pick, head coach stays, and first place schedule next season. But here's your participation banner. He's not wrong.
That's what I'm saying. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Wrong for thinking that, and you're also not wrong if you're a Bucs fan who has just seen this song and dance over and over, where we turn our head to the draft, and you have the.
But normally you got 3 wins at this time, and it's right to do it.
Exactly. You're kind of
freaking in first place.
Exactly. It's so weird to talk about it because we should be talking about let's push our way to a playoff game. And listen, if that happens, I'm not going to tell you that's not going to be fun. It's always fun to host a playoff game, regardless if you think you know the result. But listen, we had a lot of discussions last week about, that's why you play the game. And
that's right.
I see a lot of teams across the league. The Lions got boat raced by Justin Fields and the Bears yesterday. I mean,
isn't it crazy?
The Cowboys look like the best team in the league. They lost to Arizona earlier this year. I mean, it happens all over the league. So I'm not telling you it can't happen. Because this is football after all. But I just think that the Bucs, this is my honest take on it, I think they're a bad football team, or at least I think at best an average football team at best, masquerading as a playoff team right now. Yes. And record, there's something to say about you are what your record says, okay? I get that. The games have to matter. But you know what? The Steelers, for example, I'll use them as an example. They're 7-6.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not sure if they're still holding on to that playoff spot or not. Okay, the Steelers are a bad football team, though.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You can have a record like that says you're like average or that says you might be a good team, but you're actually a bad football team.
Well, and look at the Steelers. Look at the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, who I love. Never had a losing season. 17 years. You know what else? Guess how many years they've won a playoff game?
4.
4.
So like
Like
that's what
I
I'm
would have
saying,
get before I saw that stat, I would have said 8. I would have said 8.
right.
At a 17, I'd say, well, they're in the playoffs almost every year or so. And usually, yeah, I'd say 8. 4. 4.
Yeah, like people don't want to have that discussion, but Mike Tomlin is not the guy he used to be or what you think he is right now. He's just not.
Mid is not the place to be.
Yeah, just because you go 8-8 every year and you go 9-7 or whatever, like is that something to hang your hat on?
Well, I think it is because it shows
think
that you have a good culture and maybe you don't have the game-changing players you once had, which is an argument you can make right now. That roster in Pittsburgh is not
They have a lot of players,
great.
though, that are making a lot of money and have a lot of talent,
Yeah.
but they can't figure it out. Like, and I think Tomlin, his rigidness, like, is starting to come back and get him as the game evolves. I don't think he's evolved with the game.
Here's the thing about the NFL, man. It is so razor thin every week. Everybody's got good players. And I mean, everybody's got decent players. And it's like, to me, the difference in this league,
Patriots do.
yeah, that's true. But to me, the difference in this league is difference makers. Like they're just that guy that's just better than everybody else, knows football and makes plays. Antoine Winfield Jr. is one of those guys. Levante David is one of those guys. Vita Vea is one of those guys just because he, when healthy, he's so massive. He just changes the game. Aaron Donald, Patrick Mahomes, and go through the league. And these are the guys that change games because of they're just better than everybody else. And they're situationally better. They're calm in the moment. They're just those guys. Right. And in any week that can be trumped by bad calls, by certain injuries. Like injuries are so big in this league because it changes matchups. And you have to be cognizant to injuries in this league, like every week. Like yesterday, for instance, one of the big reasons the Bucs were in that game, and I said all week, well, they're going to, Atlanta's just going to run the ball down your throat. Well, they were actually outrushed 148-96. The Bucs outrushed Atlanta. Why?
The Bucs did well.
Because their offensive line was crippled. 4 guys were down. That changes the entire complexion of the game. Atlanta was going to own this game by running the football. And they couldn't do it because their offensive line was in shambles.
Well,
and they had no, and Onyemata was out, and
part of that Street got hurt in the middle of the game too.
Yeah, so their advantages were quickly taken away. So now it's a pretty even game. The main segment that was going to dominate this game, Bijan Robinson and the Atlanta running game, which was going to open up their passing game as well, was taken away. So now how do you take advantage of that? First of all, rush the freaking passer, bring every blitz you can possibly bring and confuse this offensive line.
I don't think the Bucs did enough.
They didn't do enough.
I know
they did not.
Sacks, but they did not get
They stayed with their regular game plan because of but didn't adjust to the fact that offensive line was in shambles. Shambles.
Desmond Ridder should not be throwing for 347 yards on your defense, and you should not be giving up more than 400 yards of offense to this Falcons team. And that's what I'm saying.
Not with 4 offensive linemen down.
That's my point. You can't ignore all this when you're talking about, we won, everything's okay. It's not okay. You're playing teams that are at your level, okay? These are coin flip games, and you were on the right side of that by this much yesterday. This much. That doesn't mean you're a good football team.
That last drive, there was probably 2 passes there, 2 or 3 passes that Baker threw that probably should have been picked. He got away with it.
And because the same things that we've seen all year happened yesterday from the defensive side. I mean, Ridder has time to throw. Ridder throws, and how many guys were just running wide open yesterday?
Yeah,
I mean, it's all over the field. The Kyle Pitts touchdown, that play call right there where they slipped that tight end out and out there. I mean, how many times does that burn the Bucs?
So
year?
easy.
I mean, it's so easy to do it. It just seemed like Arthur Smith had a plan. They dialed up the right plays, and the Bucs had no answer for it. They knew
Arthur Smith though is just I heard the guys talking on Get Up this morning. It's like, who gets less out of their talent than Arthur Smith? I mean, really, that team, that roster in Atlanta, they've got some ballers. They don't know how to use it. He doesn't know how to use it. He just doesn't.
I get it. I mean, but I don't know. It's a double-sided coin because the quarterback, even though
it doesn't take much to draw up and out and up, where the coverage bust happens 3 times a game against that coverage for the Buccaneers. They've been blowing that coverage. I don't know how long. That cover 2 in the seam, Carlton on the corner. Sometimes you got to go with them and sometimes you don't. I don't know if it was Antoine Winfield or Carlton, but my guess is it was Carlton.
Well, even the play where London, was it maybe in the fourth quarter? Maybe Ritter threw like kind of a prayer into double coverage there on the right side.
And that's a hell of a play by Drake London.
It is, but yeah. I have Antoine Winfield Jr. out there, who was great, but I think he'd like to have that play back. And I got Carlton Davis back there, who's making all this money. I want my two best guys in my secondary. Yeah. Ideally, someone make a play on that football.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it. So I still think they're a mess in certain parts of that secondary. Yeah. They make it easy on every quarterback to stay in this game, no matter how bad they are or how good they are. And that's what I'm saying. Like, none of it's not getting better, by the way. It's just, this is who they are as a defense.
Yeah.
And you're fooling yourself if you think the Bucs are going to overcome all this.
And let me get back to, again, the narrative changing. If they don't make it on fourth down on that final drive, right? And this is a loss, and it costs you your season. How much are we talking about 9 men on the field? Not 10. Not 10 on a goal line situation.
When it happened the week prior, I think they had 10 men on the field.
Yeah, 10 men on the field. Yeah.
Okay, this is happening over and over.
Yeah. And I remember watching the replay, and Archuleta is Archuleta, right? That was on the call. Yeah. He's like, yeah, there's no linebacker there. And I'm like, what defense are we running on goal line where we have no linebackers? I mean, are we in a dime? But it's not even a dime. At least you have one linebacker. And like, what? Because I couldn't see the wide. And of course, I wouldn't think there'd only be 9 people. And I don't even think they pointed it out there. I'm just like, 9 guys on the freaking field? Like, how can that happen in an NFL game? I don't think I've ever seen that happen in a high school game.
And if they lose, and by the way, if they lose that game, I mean, we're talking about how there's really no way to save Todd Bowles'.
Yeah, what is the excuse for that? How do you not call timeout?
Right.
How do you not call time? Did you not know there were 9 people on? I need to hear an explanation for this.
Well, I think after that play, it was after that play or it was after the 2-point conversion where I think they busted a coverage on that when they literally had 2 yards to defend. Did you see when they showed Todd Bowles and it looked like he just completely deflated? You know, his head was. He just dropped his head and he had his hands on his knees. Like, that would have been what we were looking at of, like, this is the end for Todd Bowles if they lost that game. But they win the game. Give them credit for that. They kept fighting. Like you said, the Bucs are still playing hard. Yep, you can play bad football but still play hard, okay? Those two things can both be true. And I think that's kind of what the Bucs are doing, and sometimes it works out for them by just a little bit, and they get the win. But yeah, we're talking if some of these things don't happen, but we're talking about Todd Bowles not being able to save his job, but he continues to buy himself time. Yeah, because now he's atop the division.
As Scott Valdez says, I'm at the point where you either win them all or lose them all. The overall upside, however, lies with losing them all. There's no question about that.
But be honest with yourself. If you were one of those guys who was looking that you had to upgrade the quarterback position and you had to get one of those guys in the draft, I mean, you've almost played yourself out of that anyway at this point.
There's so many quarterbacks in this draft, though.
It's not as deep as what you thought it was going to be, though, coming into the season. It's still, I think it's a 4-man quarterback class at this point.
I really haven't spent a whole lot of time looking at it precisely.
A lot of guys have decided to come back to school, whether it's Shador, whether it's Quinn, whether it's Riley Leonard, and go on and on and on. A lot of those guys are staying. Yeah. So I think at the top 4, Penix, Daniels, May, and Williams, I think that's your 4, and they're all going to go in the top, 15 picks probably.
Jacko bluntly says we need a new offensive coordinator. I don't know what to think of Dave Canales at this point. So much of it is dysfunctional. It just feels like, I know Bowles is supposed to be completely hands off, but I don't think he's hands on, but he's like said, we're running the ball 40% of the time and that's it. And if you don't get to that, you're fired. So he's trying to find these manufactured runs that don't have any rhyme or reason. It's like I said on Twitter yesterday, you're acting like you're a power run football team when you're not. You're not a power run football team. On 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, you're going toss. And I know they made a big 4th and 1 late in the game, and Rachaad White did a hell of a job finding a seam. I'll give him that. But
I even looked this morning. Rachaad White is one of 5 running backs who have 200 attempts on the ground this year, joining Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey, Travis Etienne, and Joe Mixon. Wow. He's one of 5 running backs with 200 carries this season. And the Bucs, I think, as an overall team, I think they've brought it up a little bit. their rushing numbers. I have it right here in front of me actually, so I can get it exactly. They're 29th in running the ball still in the league, and
Wow.
Rachaad White is tied for the 4th most carries in football.
Jesus. I mean, that's just saying we're forcing the run. We're just forcing the run. And you know, and you can't, I say you can't win games. You're handicapping your offense by doing this. You've got 2 of the best receivers in football, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. You've got 2 number ones. And you run this offense like you got no number ones. It's utterly ridiculous. And that's why I have with Canales, he can't be that dumb. He can't be. He's a smart, bright guy. And
I
it
told
just
you earlier in the year he was going to be stubborn about this.
Because he's been told to. And that's probably why nobody else wanted to take the OC job, is because they knew that Bowles was going to have a directive that you have to run the ball so many times to protect his defense.
Yeah, but again, it worked in the 4th quarter. It's hard to argue the result of the 4th quarter. It worked. It actually worked. But for the first 3 quarters, it was just nauseating to watch.
Yeah. I think against good football teams, decent football teams, it's not going to work.
We can all see that.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Some other, we got so much more to get to, and we'll be able to do that at the top. I'm going to go to, some of the other stories, but I want to just stay on the Bucs here for a little bit. This from KW4. You notice Baker doesn't have a call sheet on his sleeve. Does that mean Baker's memorized the entire playbook? Yeah, pretty much. How many plays are there really? I think I know. The passes are pretty simplistic. The creativity in this offense that we saw in spots early on has just completely gone away. The misdirection, the waggles, the bootlegs, it's just nowhere to be found.
Well, the one play that is somewhat creative is when they do these little end arounds to receivers, whether it's Godwin or Tompkins.
Mm-hmm.
They only bring it out like once a game, but when they do it, it seems to work. And then when they do the screen to Rachaad White, why does it take that long?
I watched almost the entire Niners.
I was going to say, the Rachaad White screen that he takes for a touchdown, we know that that's Rachaad White's strength. Why does it take so long into the game for you to bring that out and get this guy in space? And then I'm so surprised that it worked. I mean, that's what he's good at.
I mean, how do you not call 5 to 7 screen passes a game to Rachaad White? How do you not? And you could say, oh, well, but, after you run 1 or 2, they get a feel for it. And we'll run some different types of screen passes. Run 1 to the left and then now fake to the left, come back to the right, and then find the tight end over the middle. That's a great play. I've seen that many times, except for the Bucs. The Bucs don't run that play. I think they tried to run it once, and it was just a disaster. But you see I'm watching the 49ers and all this misdirection. I'm like, holy shit, and it's like, oh, Kyle Shanahan is so brilliant. I mean, why aren't you doing it? Why isn't everybody doing it? It's weird. Are your players that dumb that they can't figure it out? I know Deebo Samuel makes it look great, but Chris Godwin's, I'm not saying he's Deebo Samuel, but he's a version of it that you could use in a lot of those situations. But it's constant, when McCaffrey, I know Rachaad White's a pretty damn good back. Doesn't mean you can't try this. I'm not saying you have to have, a perfect quarterback rating like Brock Purdy does every freaking week. By the way, he does look a lot like Joe Montana. Same type of delivery over the top, same shiftiness in the pocket, same accuracy. Yeah, I'm so over this. Oh, he's a product of the system bullcrap.
Everybody's a product of a system, man.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
If you're running it right.
Everybody's just mad that he was the last pick in the draft, and they can't comprehend that he's good, and so they look for ways to tear him down.
And he doesn't have this, prototypical physical abilities like a lot of other quarterbacks in the league have. That should make them great.
Daniel Jones is 6'5", 230.
Exactly.
Pass.
Thank you. Yeah, 4 missing linemen yet. Ritter was hardly. I mean, how are you not running double A gap blitzes all game long, trying to confuse these guys? And you just let them throw for 400 yards. It's crazy. I mean, absolutely bananas. I mean, how much easier did you make it for that offensive line?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They make things more difficult than they need to be for themselves.
Yeah,
they just do.
All right, we're gonna get to some of these officials, and actually, there's a play in the Cowboys game that actually was more egregious in terms of the officials than anything I saw yesterday, more than the offsides. And I'll explain it. And somebody has to explain to me what the hell's going on in the NFL. And if you've been watching this league for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. Why are we just picking up flags? I'll just leave it there. We just pick up flags. No explanation. Nah. Why? We'll talk about it. All right, we're brought to you by Bay Area Modern Medical Center. BAMMC.com is where you go. Chris Lugo and his great team over there will get you right. If you're looking to lose weight, if you're looking to get your immune system boosted up, if you're looking to get your nutrition right, just you're not feeling well, they'll spend time with you and give you that personal concierge service. Wait, Scott Reynolds turned him on to Chris Lugo and BAMMC. We heard his great testimonial a couple weeks ago, how much time he spent with him. He is absolutely thrilled, as you will be. Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Make them your new primary care physician. All right, back in 3 with more NFL. We'll talk about the Heisman Trophy, Michael Penix, the greatest high school player in Tampa Bay history. Is he? I don't know. We can debate. So much more to get to. Stay with us. Tired of those stuffy, overpriced sports bars? Well, come join the fun at the Patio in South Tampa and watch your favorite football teams under the stars in a tropical paradise. It's a unique setting with huge wood decks beneath the trees, and don't worry, they have an inside AC bar with all your favorite bar games as well. The Patio has all the NFL and UFC sports packages. It's home to the Tampa Gator Club and the Bills Mafia, but all fans are welcome. Hey, my FSU buddies love to watch the Noles at the Patio. It's also home to a great happy hour weekdays. $5 White Claw vodka and $5 White Claw seltzers. $1 off all beer and wine from 3 to 7:30 off their already low prices. And every Friday happy hour, join us for Football Friday. It's our live broadcast from 5 to 7 o'clock with tons of specials. The fan mic for you to join the show. We'll have some swag and some ticket giveaways and more. So come out for the live broadcast 5 to 7 every Friday at the Patio and come watch football in a tropical paradise. 421 South McDill, just a few blocks south of Kennedy. Everyone meets at the Patio.
Well, Fitz the mortgage guy did it again. A listener heard his ad, was going to another big bank, but called Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services of Tampa, and Fitz saved him $618 on his monthly payment. Are you kidding me? Folks, that's big money. Rates are going up, they're going down, they're going all over the place. Scott will shop your loan and save you lender fees and get the best rates. Email him, scott@amstampa.com, or call 813-294-7595. That's Fitz the mortgage guy. Lots of stuff going on right now, and these rates are going all over the place. You need somebody knowledgeable in the market that will work hard for you and get you the best deal. That's my man Scott. He's done 3 loans for me, done thousands of loans for local folks here, works with a lot of the coaches and players in the area. He's the guy. 813-294-7595, or go to scott@amstampa.com. Have any old coins sitting around the house? Well, the Golden Diamond Source will purchase a variety of different types of coins and bullion. Their gold buying program includes sterling silver, silver, platinum, and watches. They also accept unusual pieces that other jewelry stores do not, such as gold bars and sterling silver flatware. The list of items they do accept is far more extensive than those they don't, so check it out. While you're there, you can check out the largest collection of any family-owned jewelry store in the country, especially with summer coming to an end. The holidays are right around the corner. Never too early to start your holiday shopping, especially if you're planning on getting engaged or have any birthdays or anniversaries coming up. Come on in and find out what buying jewelry should be like with an expert staff of gold and diamond jewelry enthusiasts. And the best part, they treat you like family. And if you're worrying about price, don't. The Golden Diamond Source has something for everyone's budget. They even have a layaway. If you stop in and get your favorite piece now, you can have it paid off by Christmas. Plus, you can even finance your purchase with 0% interest for up to 5 years, and you can get a $5,000 diamond for only $83 a month. It's the greatest folks in the world, Julie and Steve Weintraub, the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Olmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity.
at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Pure sports. JP is back on.
Welcome back.
FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by the great folks at the Gold and Diamond Source. The holidays, of course, are engagement season, and where better to go than the Gold and Diamond Source for that special ring, and they've got tremendous staff there that will help you pick it out. Just ask Nick. That's where he went. Had a great experience. And, of course, get yourself a natural diamond. Takes billions of years to form natural diamonds, folks. You don't want something that was just made in a factory couple of weeks ago. That's meaningless. Don't do that to your girl. She'll find out. And why deal with all the mall madness, right? Parking spots, all this craziness. Go to somebody you don't know, you don't trust. The Gold and Diamond Source is the perfect place to get that gift. And don't forget about the Emily collection from Emily Johnson Weintraub. It's affordable gold and diamond jewelry, stylish, unique. Emily has created the fashion-forward gold, diamond, and gemstone jewelry line, ideal for everyday wear. It's all distinct and for you. And for the holidays, only 3 to 5 years interest-free financing. You can use that. Imagine how big a diamond you can get with the interest-free financing. That's a big deal these days. So the holiday season is made for the Gold and Diamond Source. Go over there. Tell them JP sent you. Say hello to Steve and Julie Weintraub. And remember, keep everything local this Christmas if you can, folks. I know you want to order from Amazon. Don't do it. Go to the mom and pops. Go to local places and support their businesses so we can support the great folks here in Tampa Bay. And none better than the Gold and Diamond Source. 3800 Olmerton Road. Always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. All right, wanted to get to some other things. Where you want to go here, Nick? You want to talk some baseball with Shohei Ohtani? $70 million a year, which is the usual annual average payroll for your Rays, for the whole team. That's a lot of money, bro. And I know he's a special guy, but how do you give $70 million a year to a guy who's got to have arm surgery?
I'll tell you what happened here. And this is me speculating, but this is what I believe. First of all, the $700 million, it's essentially the Dodgers paid $350 million for Shohei Ohtani, the hitter.
Yeah.
And they paid $350 million for Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher.
Right.
Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, is worth $350 million. Not going to debate you there.
Agreed.
Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, 2 Tommy John surgeries. I don't know if he's ever started 30 games in a season. Not that is the biggest thing anymore, but, it's worth putting out there. And even when he's healthy, I'm not going to tell you that Shohei Ohtani is like a top 5 pitcher in baseball. Like, I don't think he's that. Top 10? Maybe. My point there is he's not worth $350 million as a pitcher. But I think everything that happened in Toronto with all the rumors going around, and, we were tracking flights on Friday, and one of the most credible reporters out there, John Morosi, I think he might have gotten played or something. I don't know.
Oh, that happens? Even to the big ones? Oh, wow.
It does.
Shocking development.
I think that every team had a price they were willing to go to and maybe willing to overspend on. I think Toronto, if I had to guess, maybe they got up to like 6 or something. But the Dodgers always had it in their back pocket. They have FU money to spend.
Yep.
And
They
when
sure
it got
do.
to a point where they had to actually negotiate, they said, you know what? Just go ahead and tack on another 0 to the end of that deal. It doesn't matter to us. We'll recoup it and whatever. He's going to be a marketing juggernaut over there in Los Angeles. And so that's what I have to think happened. I think that once the negotiations turned out and Los Angeles had to realize that they had to actually negotiate against other teams, they knew they had the power and they could just throw on that extra 0 and then they would secure the deal. I think the agent for Ohtani, whoever handled that whole situation, probably played it like that, and you get what we always thought was coming. He's going to be a Los Angeles Dodger, and they have 2 or 3 rather of the 5 best players in baseball.
Yeah.
Now on their roster, and they're not done. They're going to keep spending, and he deferred all his money like in a way that I haven't seen before. It's like unprecedented, so they can continue to add. You can argue if that's good for baseball or not, that the best players are now just sitting in all the big markets. I'm sure Major League Baseball doesn't
not good
mind,
for baseball.
but I don't think it's good for everyone else. I really don't, for the health of the league.
Now, you're starting to get a tiered system here, and you can say, well, the Dodgers aren't winning the World Series. I get that, because baseball's a little finicky. It's who gets hot at the end. I mean, we've seen that how many times from teams winning 88 games. Yeah. I mean, it's a little wacky in that way. But it's still, you don't want everything to be so lopsided. I mean, that's why the NFL is so freaking successful, because every market feels like they can turn it around in a year and be a playoff team the next year, because half the playoff teams change every year. You got to be a really crappy organization to be bad for any consistent period of time, like the Bucs were. You have to be really bad because there's so much incentive. It's built in that you can't F up that bad. If you're getting, top 5 draft picks every year, within a couple of years, you should be halfway decent, right? We talked about the difference between winning and losing is just such a smidge. So yeah, with Ohtani, it's like, and here's the other thing. It is a money thing. The Dodgers, conservatively speaking, local revenue wise, because they freaking packed Dodger Stadium. The number, I mean, their total revenues are well over $500 million a year. Number 2 market, all this TV. And here's the other thing with Ohtani as a Japanese player, you get television deals in Japan and marketing deals in Japan that are worth literally probably, I don't know, a third of his salary every year that you get, maybe more. So you just like that 70 million comes down to about probably 30 million. About 40 million. Because of this extra revenue you get from being able to market to Japanese networks. I mean, it's so much more money. Plus your local revenues go up in terms of ticket sales. I mean, it's a cash cow. So if your revenues are over $500-600 million a year, who cares if you have a $350 million payroll, right? I mean, who cares? You're still making, especially, for owners that don't really care about, having to fund their kids' college like ours does. Through making money through the team, and look at their own team as their personal piggy bank. These are teams in ownership groups that this is just a play toy or a lost leader at worst.
Yeah, and listen, I have a good feeling this contract's not going to age well. Most of these big ones don't.
No way. No.
And even for Ohtani, and this is not taking anything away from his talent, but this is just me drawing the dots here. He's a big dude.
Yeah,
he's a really big dude. A lot of big guys that play this game get hurt. Ohtani's gotten hurt a lot in his career.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge has gotten hurt a good amount in his career. Giancarlo Stanton has gotten hurt a lot in his career. Tyler Glasnow has gotten hurt a lot in his career. A lot of these bigger guys, I mean, you think about it. The travel situation's not easy for them. There's a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. I mean, some of the movements are a little awkward, things like that. I'm not saying that he's absolutely going to get injured. I'm just saying that has to be a concern. And now he's already 2 elbow surgeries in. I don't know what Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, is going to look like in 2025.
Right.
I have no idea. But do the Dodgers really care about that? No, because they're going to be making so much money.
Yeah.
And they can still add whoever they want on top of it to figure it out.
With 162 games, and then with all the ancillary programming that goes along with that, and you're charging $5,000 per 30-second spot in the LA market, in the New York market. I mean, start doing the numbers on this stuff, man.
What I hated though
about
this
money.
What I hated about this whole thing, and I think the media plays a part in this about the big markets. They just want all the big markets to just like rule sports. They do this in the NBA a lot. Like Damian Lillard, for example, played in Portland his entire career, showed loyalty to them, and everybody in the media was like, well, he just doesn't want to win. Why doesn't he go to New York and play for the Knicks and things like that? As if that's some kind of badge of honor to play for a team that hasn't won a championship in 50 freaking years. We did that in the NBA a lot. They tried to run Giannis out of Milwaukee, and then he signed, and now they got nothing to say. They just have to accept it that he's staying in Milwaukee, but they can't. And my point there is, like, when Ohtani was negotiating with the Toronto Blue Jays, a lot of people were like, well, why would he go to Toronto? Are we going to act like Toronto, first of all, is not a huge market?
It's a
That
huge
is one of the
market. It's
biggest
an international
markets
city.
in the entire
Yes.
world.
Yeah.
You think Shohei Ohtani wouldn't have worked in Toronto from all that standpoint that he's going to work in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Really?
You would
I'm
be the
glad it
darling
didn't
of an
happen for
entire
the-
country.
Right. And for the Rays standpoint, I'm over the moon. Get that
Yeah.
guy as far away as you can from the AL
Yes.
East.
Thank you.
That's the biggest thing. I think the Rays won this weekend by doing nothing
Yeah.
because Shohei Ohtani's not come to the division. But don't tell me like it wouldn't have worked in Toronto from all those standpoints, as if that market doesn't deserve it.
What scares me is now what are they going to do with that money that they were going to spend it on Ohtani? Are they going to go spend it on 3 or 4 really quality players that are going to be around for a long
if you're willing
time?
to spend $600 million, I mean, you kind of just told your fan base that we got some FU money to spend too. So
Yeah,
now you
that's
gotta
what
deliver.
scares me, and they're going to spend it a lot smarter than they would have Ohtani. I wouldn't, for the first couple of years, it might bite you in the ass, but I think over the long run, it would have crippled Toronto with that contract. So I don't know. I think either way, the Rays have to worry about the Rays and go do something and improve their team. All we're talking about is, hey, let's trade our stars, to get some younger get more younger talented players. Woo! Can't wait for that strategy to pan out. Well, especially with all those great young players we got for Blake Snell. Oh, that didn't work out so well. Yeah, I would just love for them to take this 100-win team and augment it. Like, keep your core and then go get some good players. Why not go get 2 or 3 proven bats? You're going to have to overspend a little bit because none of these bats want to come play in the Trop, but you can sell them on your new crappy same located stadium, I guess, and say at least you're going to play soon in a new stadium somewhere. That would be good. Maybe you can get some position players to come, but go spend some freaking money. I mean, you've got the money. I'm so tired of hearing this bullshit about, oh, it's a small market, blah, 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 and it gets being parroted in the media. No, you're not. They got $500 million sitting in an account, according to the lawsuit, allegedly, and that money could be used to get players. That money has come from the Rays themselves, and Stu has always said he's going to put the money back into the team. Well, let's see it. And not in terms of a stadium, because that's going to take care of itself and a lot of public money. So don't give me that BS either. Go spend some freaking money and make this team competitive and stop fooling or trying to fool the fan base that you're actually interested in winning a World Series, because you're not. All right, wanted to hit this other, couple of things from the NFL yesterday. Much has been made of the offsides call against Kadarius Toney. Go Gators. But was the offsides? Yeah, it negated one of the greatest plays in the history of the NFL, quite frankly. Travis Kelce throwing a perfect backwards lateral overhand to Toney to score what might have been the game winner. Of course, Buffalo would have had a chance to come back and win, which they probably could have done. But that being said, there's a lot of talk about how childish Mahomes handled it after the game, even when he was shaking hands with Josh after the game, Josh Allen after the game. He was still bitching about it. He bitched about it at the podium. And I understand why he's bitching about it, because, they got screwed on the MVS penalty a couple weeks ago, which was ridiculous. The officiating is just horrible in this league. And I'm here to tell you, folks, if he was offsides, it was by a smidge. And these calls are not
blatantly offside.
First of all, Nick, number one, every time a guy gets over the ball with the center moves the ball. And sometimes you can see the still shot, right? But if you go back and look at the play, the ball is out front. He moves it back, and it makes it look a lot worse than it actually is. And that's the reason you don't call offsides on every single play unless there's a competitive advantage to it. Okay, that's supposed to be the rule by the official, a competitive advantage. Was there a competitive advantage because his toe was 2 inches offside because the center may have moved the ball back? Absolutely not. Why you call that in that situation, I don't know.
A penalty is a penalty.
I just gave you one example when a penalty was not a penalty, Nick. And here's another example when a penalty is not a penalty. In the Eagles-Cowboys game, and this one is way more egregious, folks. And someone needs to explain to me why this is done now routinely, and nobody says anything about it. So Dak Prescott escapes the pocket, rolling to his left. And it was Fletcher Cox or one of the Eagles defensive linemen is being, without question, gratuitously held on the outside so he can't escape and chase down Dak Prescott. It's an obvious and incredible call right at the point of attack where a competitive advantage is being had, and those are the must-make calls. The call is thrown. The play continues for another 2 or 3 seconds, and he finds CeeDee Lamb in the flat who walks in for a touchdown. So, and now we have an official with an earpiece in, with talking to New York, and New York sees the Cowboys score touchdowns early on in the game, and okay, this is going to be we need the Cowboys to win. We need this narrative to continue. So guess what? We're going to pick up the flag without explanation. Without explanation. There is no foul for holding on the play. Actually, I don't even think he said holding. There is no foul on the play. How is there no foul? Yeah, the guy clearly saw it. It clearly happened, but because now the Cowboys have scored a touchdown in a big marquee game where you want points, okay, we all know that it's all about points now, right? Doesn't matter about court and defense. No, it's all about points, and we're picking up the flag. How in the F is that okay?
It's not. The referees, they stink, and it's getting worse every single week. It is what it is at this point. I think the play though about Kansas City is the wrong play to look to about bad officiating, because I've seen every angle of it. I've seen the overhead angle of it. He was offside, and I know they're so mad because that usually you get to check with the official, but Kadarius Toney never checked with the official. That's on him. You got to know that. That's on him, and that's a product of the Chiefs' just mental errors. And that. But I'm here to tell you,
guys, that happens 60 times a game with defensive players, offensive players.
I've listened to Gene Steratore talk about this. The best, so blatant, they had to call it.
Wasn't
it was
not
so
blatant.
Go look
at his foot. It's not even his whole foot is over the line. It's not that blatant, because he says it's blatant means it's blatant. I'll go show you 60 plays yesterday that are more blatant than that weren't called.
They had listen, but
just
here's
because
the thing
Gene Steratore is towing the company line. I've listened to 100 players that say, "Nah, dude, that's never called. That's never, especially in those situations." Listen, I didn't like Mahomes bitching and moaning about it.
I hate the way he acted.
I don't like any of that. But I separate truth from the flash.
But
and
I also think it's a little hypocritical on Mahomes' part and the Chiefs, because are we going to ignore the penalty that was called in the Super Bowl that guided them to win it this past year? Are we going to ignore that one?
No, here's the thing.
Everyone benefits from bad calls and good calls.
That's true. But but you can't deflect and ignore the facts in front of you and deflect. And everybody said, well, JP, the fact is he's offside. And the fact is guys are offside 60 times a game and it's never called. Well, listen, that's a fact as well.
I'm infinitely more upset about the play of the day yesterday was the Ravens walk-off punt return.
K-Dub 4, his body was not over the line. His body was not over the line. And by the way, again, I'll show you 60 that were just as bad. Every game. I'll show you helmets of defensive linemen that are halfway across the ball in short yardage situations. They don't call it. Well, an offside is an offside. I'll show you 1,000 that they don't call it.
I was just going to point out the most egregious non-call yesterday was not in that game. It really was in the Baltimore LA game on the best play of the day, the walk-off punt return. There's a blatant block in the back.
Oh, yes.
Right there.
And right at the point of attack.
2 hands, right at the point of attack. And we're just, I didn't see anything. That was the worst call yesterday, or non-call. But we're not going to talk about that one. We're going to talk about because the Chiefs got screwed.
And Mahomes bitched and moaned about it.
How many times does Mahomes, the week prior, they didn't get the pass interference call in MVS, but remember when Mahomes got the call when he was running out of bounds? He was still in bounds and he got popped. We had to throw a flag on that because we can't hit Patrick Mahomes. Oh,
terrible
my goodness.
Call. Terrible
and the way he
and he was trying to get it, and he was going for the first down and an extra yard.
Exactly. And the way he talked about it after the game of, Travis Kelce's a Hall of Fame player, and we just took that moment away from him that we can't play on his
Taylor Swift was going to write an album about that play.
Oh, my, please. I didn't have any time for that. Find them all. Find them all.
Oh, man. Greenberg had all the albums done this morning, and
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, the album Kadarius will be the name of the album, and I'm like, oh, my God, Jesus. Yeah, by the way, she hasn't been good for the Chiefs overall winning loss record. That's all I'm saying. If you're counting at home,
I think the magic is worn
It's
off a
more
little bit.
if you're scoring at home, and I hope you are. Yeah, that is especially with Taylor Swift. You are. I'm sorry, it hasn't worked out well. It has not. All right, quick break. When we come back, Dave Archer is going to join us. Former Falcons quarterback, now radio analyst. We'll get his take on the game yesterday from both sides of the football. Always great to talk with Dave. Always learn a lot about football when we chat with him. So we'll talk about Desmond Ridder and Baker Mayfield and so much more. We're brought to you by the Geddes Gordon Group, folks. If you have any real estate needs as well, call Jane Geddes. If you're looking to invest in real estate, they'll have a plan for you that's personalized just for you. Become part of their real estate family and part of their friends network when you hire the Geddes Gordon Group. Go to GeddesGordonGroup.com and find out more. Tell them JP sent you. All right, back in 3 with Dave Archer, Falcons Radio. Stay with us. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA 2-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to GeddesGordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
Do you have any old coins sitting around the house? Well, the Golden Diamond Source will purchase a variety of different types of coins and bullion. Their gold buying program includes sterling silver, silver, platinum, and watches. They also accept unusual pieces that other jewelry stores do not, such as gold bars and sterling silver flatware. The list of items they do accept is far more extensive than those they don't, so check it out. While you're there, you can check out the largest collection of any family-owned jewelry store in the country, especially with summer coming to an end. The holidays are right around the corner. Never too early to start your holiday shopping, especially if you're planning on getting engaged or have any birthdays or anniversaries coming up. Come on in and find out what buying jewelry should be like with an expert staff of gold and diamond jewelry enthusiasts. And the best part, they treat you like family. And if you're worrying about price, don't. The Golden Diamond Source has something for everyone's budget. They even have a layaway. If you stop in and get your favorite piece now, you can have it paid off by Christmas. Plus, you can even finance your purchase with 0% interest for up to 5 years, and you can get a $5,000 diamond for only $83 a month. It's the greatest folks in the world, Julie and Steve Weintraub, the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Olmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. Hey guys, are you experiencing those feelings of getting older, lower sex drive, fatigue, hot flashes, moodiness, or you just don't feel like you had the vitality you once had? It's a chronic problem here in the United States. You're not just getting old, it's likely low testosterone. Studies over the last 20 years show a shocking decline in younger males aged 16 to 39. Older men have seen a sharp decline as well, so do something about it. Go see my friend Christopher Lugo at Bay Area Modern Medicine. Look, testosterone replacement is not a frivolous treatment. It takes a professional, targeted approach that focuses on total body wellness, vitality, and emotional stability, not a one-size-fits-all approach like many clinics use. They will monitor your blood work and adjust your treatment as needed for optimal results. Folks, I've been on testosterone therapy for over 6 years, and it is a life changer. You will feel and look better than you did 10 years ago. Give them a call at 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. Tell them JP sent you for priority scheduling. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com. JeevesLawGroup.com. JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
Coming back at you. Now, more with JP on FanStream Sports. It's only just begun.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by the great folks at American Mortgage Services. Go check out my good friend Scott Fitzgerald. Email him at scott@amstampa.com. Get that refi. It's got some creative ways to get around some of those really high interest rates now. So have a total discussion about your finances, and he can find ways for you to get that new house and keep that low monthly payment where you need it to be. So just email him, scott@amstampa.com. All right, let's welcome in our good friend Dave Archer, my former colleague from the Falcons Radio Network. And Dave, I'm glad you and I both got paid to watch that game yesterday. Had some moments, but there's a lot of bad football out there yesterday. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it's chilly here in Atlanta. The wind feels like it's blowing off a glacier right now. It's about 30. I think the wind chill's like 35 degrees. But so it's kind of the way the offense felt for both teams in the first half. Pretty chilly from an offensive standpoint. I thought both these teams were significantly wounded going into the game. Obviously, defensively for Tampa to have guys at all three levels out of the game, wounded them. And of course, Atlanta at one point early on in the game had 4 of their 5 linemen were backup offensive linemen in the game. So it was just kind of a, can your depth kind of carry you through? And as it turns out, both defenses played well early on, and then both offenses kind of figured it out finally in the fourth quarter or midway through the third quarter, started moving the ball.
Yeah, thank God. Let's talk a little bit, because I know, up there, Arthur Smith is getting a rash, and there's a lot of questions about the way he's handling this team. And I think on any other day, that's probably really fair. But as you said, if you're down 4 offensive linemen, you're trying to coach around these things. It's not the easiest thing in the world. So give me your overall take on, was this a coaching failure for the Falcons yesterday, or did the Bucs do some things that they deserve an attaboy for?
Yeah, I don't get the narrative on the coaching thing. The opening drive of the game, Atlanta takes the ball the length of the field on a 5-6 minute drive. And ultimately, they've got a shot at Bijan Robinson in the right flat. He's open for a touchdown, and Ritter misses him. It's a good call. You've got your most explosive player on your team in the right flat open, and you miss him. And so you have to settle for a field goal. 7 different guys touched the football in the drive.
Yeah,
I just don't know where the vitriol is with the coach when it comes to that kind of play calling. You're trying to get your most explosive. Drake London has 10 grabs in the game.
Wow.
I mean, Bijan Robinson has almost 100 yards of total offense. You're trying to get your best players on. Kyle Pitts catches a 30-yard, 35-yard touchdown pass. He's getting the football to all the guys. It's about execution. I mean, the mistake Atlanta makes early in the game, tremendous play by Carlton Davis.
Yes.
He splits a double team on the screen pass. That's not the quarterback's fault. That's not the coach's fault. It's Kyle Pitts' fault. You got to block the corner. I mean, do your job.
Yep.
I mean, block the corner. You've got Bijan Robinson, one of the most explosive players in the league, in a situation where he might take that to the house. There's only 2 players out there.
Yeah.
And Carlton Davis makes an incredibly good play. So, and then Antoine Winfield comes off the edge on the blitz. We've got a back there to block him, our fullback. He completely whiffs on him. He goes around him and strips the ball out, and it ends up being a safety. So I'm not sure where the coach is responsible for lack of execution on the offensive side of the football for the Falcons.
And on the defensive side, yesterday, both teams were shorthanded, in the run game. Like the Falcons had offensive linemen missing. The Bucs had defensive line missing, so maybe they kind of evened out. But the Falcons did a good job stopping the run the first three quarters. In that fourth quarter, the Bucs ran 12 times for 71 yards. What do you think? Did you think that Atlanta maybe just got gassed out from them running it so much, and eventually they broke, or what was the problem there, you think?
Yeah, ultimately it was a depth issue. If you noticed, obviously David Onyemata, who was a big player in the first game between these two teams, made the big sack late in the game on Baker that forced the field goal that allowed Atlanta to ultimately go down and win the football game in Tampa. He didn't play. Of course, Grady Jarrett tore his knee up here about 5 weeks ago. He's out. Those are two starting defensive tackles. They traded for Kentavious Street, who's been very good for Atlanta, filling in for Grady Jarrett. He went down with a shoulder injury about halfway through the game. So now you're to your fourth defensive tackle. And so then your rotation gets pretty thin. In fact, they ultimately had a young man that the first player in Kennesaw State history to take snaps in a National Football League game, a rookie. And he held up as best he could, but ultimately it was just a battle of attrition. And I think ultimately, the lack of rotation defensively. You talk about your down two linebackers in the interior. Nate Landman, who was essentially a backup middle linebacker, was out. You'd lost Troy Davis the young man from Montana State. I'm losing his name here all of a sudden. Was not available. So yeah. I mean, there's so many different names, JP, that we've had to rotate in. You guys have done the same thing, and it's no excuse. But ultimately, give Tampa credit for continuing to bang on that wall. And ultimately, that wall gave way, and some of that has to do, the offense has to, keep that defense off the field, knowing they're thin. That's something that Tampa had needed to try to do to keep, with Vita Vea out of the game and Devin White out of the game. Right. Certainly, you'd like to provide that defense a little bit of chill time where they're on the sideline and they're not out there as much. So, I think that ultimately both defenses kind of started to cave in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, especially when you get 9 men on the field on the goal line. That's that could be an issue for the Did you see this?
Yeah, that was a good one. They were trying to substitute different guys. I said I don't think they've got enough on the field, and I thought it was 10. Did it end up being 9? 9. They did the replay on the touchdown, and I'm like, where's the linebacker? And even Archuleta said, yeah, there's no linebacker. And I'm like, are we in dime without a linebacker? Like, what are we in quarter? Is there a 50-cent piece? What defense is this? That's out of the Notre Dame playbook against Ohio State, where you only play with 9 on defense on the goal line.
Yeah, this is new meaning to Tampa too. It's I'm like, what do we? How do you not call timeout? How do you not? This is the thing that's crazy, and you know this, Dave, is like depending on the outcome of the game, and I understand to some degree why this is, the narrative completely changes. Like if the Bucs don't make that fourth down and they lose this game on the final drive, or something happens on that final drive and they lose, that's all we're talking about today. Is Bold needs to be fired immediately. Had 9 guys on the field on the goal line, and you didn't even call timeout. It's not the first time. It's like, and so they win the game. And Baker made some big plays at the end, but the narrative completely changes, Anyway, so my bigger question is here, as you sit there, and then the Falcons still have obviously every opportunity to win this division, and the Bucs do too. And I'm like, why? Like, I understand, and part of me is like, well, it's football season, number one. Let's make it last as long as we can. If we can get to the freaking playoffs, let's go. I mean, but there was some good stuff that happened yesterday, and then a lot of fans are saying, look, we're mid. We're heading, even if we win this crappy division, we get a home playoff game where we get our ass kicked just like last year. Bowles sticks around and we're still in limbo. And I get that too. So I'm struggling like which way to go here. I'm just it doesn't matter where I care, right? Just let it play out. But I don't know. I think both franchises are kind of in the same spot.
Yeah, I would agree with you that there's obviously some mediocre to it. There are some building blocks that you'd like to try to hang your hat on if you're an optimist. And certainly if you're a pessimist, there's certainly things to hang your hat on there as well. I would say though that disrupting a franchise by changing everything never ever, it's not, I shouldn't say ever, but 90% of the time that puts you in a in a mode where you got to go through a 3-year process to get back to where you are now. There's a lot of talent on Tampa's team. There's a lot of talent on this Falcon team.
Yes.
I just think that for me in Atlanta here, there is a real issue with the fine focus in executing in key moments. And
Details.
Atlanta's unfortunately has been in the deep red zone against teams. They've pushed the ball down inside that 10-yard line, and they haven't been able to come up with touchdowns.
Yep.
And why is it? Is it play calling? I just don't see play calling. I mean, Bijan Robinson's open in the flat. Hit him. Make that throw, And Dez made a bunch of great throws in the game. And you mentioned Baker seemed to be a little bit off a little bit. I think that some of that had to do with the Falcon defense early on. That's a pretty good defense they were going against. In fact, statistically, one of the better defenses in the league. They've been really good all year long. So they harassed him, kind of got after him a little bit, but still there was, when he needed to step up, the throw to Godwin on the corner route was a big-time throw in tight coverage. Alford's right there. That's a big-time throw when he needed it. And then Otten, I give Otten a ton of credit to fight through what was a hold. He got held on the play and still gets to the corner, and Baker doesn't put the ball in harm's way. He throws it to the back corner pylon. It's right on the money for the touchdown. So, I mean, it's clutch. Those are moments which you got to have it, and that's going to, as much as Baker's a veteran player, you can't tell me that he doesn't take a tremendous amount of confidence in the next week. I know they got to go on the road to Green Bay, and that's not going to be easy win because Green Bay's playing pretty well right now. But but you got to go up there with a ton of confidence if you're Baker Mayfield after this performance, even though it was kind of loose through the middle part of the game. And I'll tell you, I said this at the beginning of our game. I said, you better watch out now. Tampa's starting to get a foothold in the run game. They run for over 125 yards in their last 3 games. I know one of them was a loss, but that's something that Tampa has not had is a run game they could lean on. And that's a big deal now when you get into December. They run for over 125 yards in 3 consecutive games and put 150 on Atlanta yesterday. That's something that is going to bode well for them in these last 4 games.
You mentioned building off of some things here, and both teams have things to build off of. Is one of those things for Atlanta, you think Drake London? Because, I mean, he was outstanding. I think that's probably his best game as a pro. And even when he was covered, I mean, the contested catches he made, and he's a guy that you would probably argue has been misused a little bit in Atlanta's offense. Is that something that they can hang their hat on is, man, we just got to get this guy. I mean, you could say that about Kyle Pitts. You could say that about John Robinson. But specifically, one of these wideouts, is Drake London something you can build off from yesterday?
Yeah, I think you have to lean into that. I think that, 10 grabs, 170 yards, it's the first time we've had a performance like that since Julio Jones was here. And frankly, the catch he makes over Winfield that sets Atlanta up to get the go-ahead touchdown, I haven't seen a catch like that since Julio Jones was here. Maybe you got to go back to JP to the Super Bowl against New England, which ironically enough ended very similar to the way this game ended, with the other team coming back to win late in the game. But he's a big time player. I think Dez is getting more of an idea of just put him up to bat. He's 6'5". That was when you drafted him. The number one thing you talked about with him was not to be able to run after catch, he was a big physical dude, and he won 9 out of 10 50-50 balls. I mean, and you love that because most plays are contested catches in this league. You don't have guys wide open. You've got to make contested catches with DBs all over you, and he's that guy. But there is the dilemma. It's a good dilemma, but you've got weapons. You just mentioned 2 other guys, and then Jonnu Smith is another weapon.
Yeah.
They've got they distribute the ball to guys. And so sometimes you miss on it, sometimes you don't, and all of a sudden the play caller's stupid because he's not throwing the ball to Drake London every time. Well, you've got 4 or 5 other guys that are pretty good game breakers themselves. So it's a good problem to have, but it's also a bad problem when you don't execute.
All right, Dave. So listen, it's up for grabs now. Obviously, the Bucs took a leg up, but they've got a lot of work to do. As you mentioned, Green Bay, they've got Jacksonville, and then the Saints and the Panthers as well. These are all 50-50 games, clearly. I don't know if they're running the table. So, and the Falcons got what? They're at the Panthers. Then they got the Colts coming to town on Christmas Eve. Then you're at the Bears on December 31st. It's a 1:00 game, but that could be a chilly one. And then you're at the Saints. Yeah. And then you're at the Saints. I mean, that's no piece of cake either.
No, it's no. no walk in the park. I mean, and look at the way Carolina. That's the thing, though. Carolina's got nothing to lose, right? They're in no man's land. Carolina played Tampa pretty good last weekend, right? They, I mean, played it within a couple points, and that's the way these games are in this division. So, I mean, yeah, you cannot stumble against Carolina next weekend, and then obviously here in Atlanta, we'll be hoping that Green Bay can do Atlanta a favor and get them back even, because that would be an NFC loss.
Right.
And that's really where Tampa's got the lead. And Tampa's got a 1-game lead in conference play. Both teams are 3-1 in division. Atlanta would get the leg up with a 4-1 in division if they're able to win next week, and then they would even up if Tampa were to lose to Green Bay. And that's how close this thing. It would flip flop where Atlanta would take back that 4th spot if Tampa were to lose and Atlanta were to win. But like you said, I can't believe a fan base wouldn't want a home playoff game. I mean, go back to when New Orleans had to go up to Seattle and they were 9-7. We had the beast mode moment where Marshawn Lynch had that rip off run where it registered on the Richter scale. They knocked New Orleans out of the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, how about a moment like that? That'd be kind of cool. Atlanta had a home game in the playoffs since 2016. I mean, come on, we'll take it. We just got to go win the division, and so does Tampa.
We're still scarred from the Cowboys destroying us in our own backyard here last year. It was awful. It's terrible, but we'll take it.
Well, unfortunately, that's the team. That's the team that one of these two teams is probably going to draw.
I know.
So that might be a scenario. But hey, you know what? Give us a chance. We'll take
absolutely. Who knows? That's right. That's what my Knowles are still saying. All right.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a killer there, man.
All right, Arch. Appreciate your time as always. Hope you guys. Well, I'm not going to hope for anything for the Falcons. All right, I'm going to just say, may the best man win.
I don't blame you.
May the best man win.
I don't blame you.
Score a touchdown.
Enjoy that warm weather down there.
Yes.
Enjoy that warm weather down there.
We're playing golf tomorrow. All right, partner. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, good. Appreciate you, man. Take care, bud.
Right. The great Dave Archer there, Falcons Radio. Yeah, man, it's anything can happen. Look at their schedule. They're going to go to freaking Chicago on New Year's Eve. Good luck with that.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of a reality. Or interesting is that they get Carolina next week. You said,
yeah,
Falcons
at Carolina,
and the Bucs get Green Bay. So
yeah,
this could be this whole thing about being in first place and having could only be a 6-day thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I mean, seriously. So the Bucs were talking about having to win 6 games, but they won't. The Falcons are not winning all those games. I mean, it's the same situation. It's a toss up for them as well.
None of these teams are good enough to do
this.
Just
no.
not.
And suddenly the Bears, are playing good football. And now the Falcons got to go up to Chicago on a New Year's Eve. And who knows what it's going to, it's a 1:00 game, but still it's like dark at 1:00 in Chicago.
Justin Fields is basically auditioning for Atlanta.
Right.
So, I mean, he's got an incentive.
Yeah. And then they got to go to New Orleans. Last game of the season, January 7th at the Saints, in which, don't forget about the Saints. I have to check their schedule down the stretch as well.
It's so crazy. I don't even think the Saints are even in there. Like, I know they're 6-7.
They're 6-7. I mean, stop.
I understand, but man, the Saints are there.
Yeah, but they're looking at the Bucs saying the same thing.
The Saints have the Giants, the Rams, the Bucs, and the Falcons. So they get the draw there. They get the Bucs and Falcons week 17 and week 18.
Yeah,
which is perfect if you're a Saints fan.
Don't count them out.
Yeah, I guess that schedule's not too crazy. So
no, don't count them out. It's stranger things have happened. So yeah, it's different. All right, I gotta hit this story that I'd like to play the audio because it so matters. So Kirk Herbstreit was on McAfee. I don't know if this was today or when this
Friday, I believe.
It was on Friday. Have you seen this?
I saw parts of the interview. So
I'm going to give this a shot here to just play it through my microphone because it's so, and people are going crazy, but when you start using words like conspiracy theorists and radicals, it really starts to, especially knowing where ESPN is politically and where Herbie is politically. And the fact, Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott are getting involved. And it's like, come on, man.
Within the division, there's ways.
Can you hear this?
There's no arguments at the end of the NFL
All right,
season.
let me see if I
College
can get to
football is
this.
subjective, and a lot of people don't understand the cluster and what, all these people that are upset. Did they ever break down when they get to a cluster of teams? This is what the committee is asked to follow.
With similar records, by the way.
When people bitch and complain, they don't like facts. They don't like information. They like conspiracy theories.
Now you're kind of taking a shot.
People that are radical and upset and throwing conspiracy theories out there that aren't true.
Easy.
That's easy. They. That's who they is.
Well, C-word, Con. Yeah, I know you heard that. Easy.
Come on, man. Could you be more? This is the same guy that started saying Florida State doesn't belong before Jordan Travis got hurt. He started with the bullshit narrative. Never, I don't need to go through all the precedents that we had to break to get here. And conspiracy theorists, by the way, over the last few years, Herbie, have pretty much proved to be true. Almost every single time. Yeah, and the misinformation that's being put out there was being put out there by the people who control the narrative. That would be you. And we're supposed to completely ignore the conflict of interests that your network so egregiously has over this college football playoff, and ignore the secret ballots, and ignore the closed doors. Nobody can see what you're doing. The fact that ESPN holds that rights deal over Florida State's head like a bludgeon, and they tried to get out of it and would have cost ESPN hundreds of millions of dollars. And this was the political payback. You all, Feinbaum said it. Everybody hates Florida State, meaning the people in college sports, meaning ESPN suits and the SEC. That these are all conspiracies and they're not facts, right? No, these are facts, actually, Herbie. The fact is they've never, ever had a Power 5, undefeated Power 5 team not make the playoff. Why is Michigan so untouchable when their resume doesn't even stack up to FSU's? Facts. Not to mention that they cheated. Facts. So if you want to talk about Alabama, that's fine. Let's talk about Texas, Alabama. Let's talk about Washington, and let's talk about Michigan. Any of them. It's never been done before. But yet here you stand with the conflict of interest and your beauty contest. Now it's a beauty contest. No one ever said it was the best offense. None of that stuff. But the conflict of interest exists. And you know damn well it does. So the more this clown talks, and I used to be a huge Herb Street fan, by the way, humongous. But now you want to start with the tropes and the code words of radicals and conspiracy theorists. And now you open it up to where everybody stands politically. And we see that this was nothing more than a political hit job, as we all know it was. I get more disgusted by the day, Nick. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I mean, I'm pretty much just.
I know you're. Hey, let's talk about Michael Penix. Finishes second in the Heisman to the guy who should have won it in my mind, Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
I think he was phenomenal. And I'll say it, the toughest conference with the most talent in football. Okay. Most years, not this year. But he did it. He did it against the best. Had, 3 narrow losses, certainly none of them on him. Just a tremendous player. I thought his numbers were so much better, and against tougher competition than Michael Penix, who was fantastic. And yes, I think is he the greatest college football player from the Tampa Bay area? Hard to argue the numbers that he put up. And had he been at Washington for 4 years in a really offensive-minded league, holy shiz.
I just love. I mean, I love the story. I mean,
yes.
From everybody scoffs at the fact that players that are playing 5 years and 6 years now. I mean, that kid got hurt twice. I think 2 ACL surgeries. Had to transfer to Indiana. It was essentially a reclamation project at Washington, and he turned himself into second in the Heisman. He's going to play for a national championship opportunity, and he's going to be a first-round pick in a high one at that. So that's a great story for this area. What's interesting, JP, is, and I didn't even know this at the time, so I went to Durant, and he played at Tampa Bay Tech. My last year at Durant, Michael Penix, this just tells you how old he is. Michael Penix played that season for Tampa Bay Tech against Durant at Durant. I was at that game.
You didn't
and I
even know
didn't
it.
have, and I didn't have any. I had no idea who Michael Penix was. I had no idea that was an NFL would go on to be this guy. And I think Trayshawn Ward was on that team too, just a
Yes, he
talented
was.
Tampa
Yeah.
Bay Tech team.
Yeah.
But I watched this team, bully Durant at our school over there in Plant City. So I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess, to see what
Yeah.
he's doing now. But
Do you
yeah,
remember
he
like,
was-
oh, that guy's pretty good?
I don't have any recollection
wow.
of it, but
Wow.
I went back and looked at the schedule and I'm like, yeah, I had to have been there.
This high school coach was probably running 40 times a game anyway.
Yeah, his numbers were insane. I've been looking at his numbers all weekend, but yeah, you could probably make the argument and probably win it that he's the best high school player to come from this area.
Yeah. What a great story, and congrats to him. It's funny. I was watching the ESPN promo for the playoff, and it's like 4 great stories in this playoff. I'm like, I don't care about any of them. I know I'm biased.
I think there is. I think all 4 have their own story. Like, I don't want to, in all this, by the way, I should have said this last week, but we were so fired up about the process and everything. Don't let what Alabama has accomplished this year, I don't want to necessarily dismiss it.
Yeah.
Because this is the greatest coach of all time that we watched, and he put on a clinic this entire season.
He
This
did.
might have been his best coaching job.
You did.
And listen, very few teams get better as the seasons go on. I mean, I've heard people talk about that. Only a few teams get better in the second half, and Alabama did.
They did.
Even though they played some close games, they did. And from getting Milroe Milroe didn't even play against USF. I mean, that's how down bad they were. Like, they didn't even think they were going to stick with Milroe.
Benched him.
And he
Benched
finished
him.
6th in the Heisman voting, and this morning he's number 1 in the odds for next year. So I don't want to dismiss what Alabama did. I mean, they went 9-0 in the SEC.
No, they did. They had a great year. They
had a
did.
great year, and I get it. It's tough. It just, I don't know. But
No,
every team was deserving. Like, I mean, I think we can all agree on that.
Texas, had the big win at Alabama. But, and then I say, well, Milroe wasn't Milroe there. They didn't know how to use him. That was a very gettable team at that particular time, but they dominated them on the line of scrimmage. That's where they won the game.
Yeah, but I don't care when the game's played. I mean, people are trying to say that FSU and LSU. I heard this on the Rich Eisen show.
Same thing.
They were saying
Same
that was
thing.
a
No,
preseason game, so it doesn't
you
matter.
get the dub. You get the dub, and then
When you win.
and you lose a rivalry game in a neutral setting. I get it. To an Oklahoma team that wasn't that great in the end. So, but you can say that about all of them. Texas is back. That's a good line. Texas is back, and Washington is a great story, and Michael Penix is a great story, and the Pac-12's last season, will they have a national champion? It's plausible. It can happen.
Yeah. Hey,
and Michigan, their story is, I just hate them. It's so funny because they're like, their story is that can they finally get across the finish line cheating their ass off? No.
Yeah. Hey,
They
by the
didn't
way,
mention that.
By the way, before we sign off, since we were just talking about college football, I did want to give a shout out to USF for this weekend. Alex Golish, man, getting it done on the recruiting trail. They flipped a 4-star tight end, Jonathan Eccles.
Wow, that's a big one.
Tennessee, he flipped over to USF. This is a big-time recruit that they were able to get. Obviously, they still got to sign him, but you think they will. And USF now has the 59th ranked recruiting class in the nation. That's the best of any Group of 5 team in the nation.
Wow.
Right there for your USF Bulls. So
that's
a
fantastic.
good week for them with the stadium stuff and now the recruiting doing well.
Stadium looks beautiful, though.
It does.
Really does. That's going to look, wow, they're getting all that for $340 million. Wow. Somebody's bargain shopping it over there. That looks really nice. Yeah, fantastic. So good job. Yeah, good job by USF. Didn't they get a big win in basketball too?
They killed your Florida State Knowles.
We're so bad. Yeah, so congrats. Now their new coach is getting it done from Kennesaw.
Hey,
yeah.
I'm just going to point it out. I think USF, do they still have a better recruiting class than Colorado? Colorado, I think, actually got, but for a little bit there, they had a better recruiting class than Colorado up until the last week. So
I think Deion's punting on high school recruits anyway. I think he's just going full portal NIL, which he should do. That's a smarter way to do it, really. Plus, he didn't want to actually get on a plane and go recruit anybody. They'll just let him come to him. You know where to find me. I got NIL money. You want to come play? Come play. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that works out in the offseason. I'm very interested to see what's going on there. All right. Great job, Nick, today by you. Thank you to Dave Archer for joining us here. Appreciate you guys jumping in as well. Appreciate all the great comments. We'll be back tomorrow with more fun and frivolity. We'll talk some Bolts tomorrow. They had a nice win. We forgot to mention that. The overtime win against the Kraken. Come back and get it to overtime and then win it. That was nice. So we'll talk some more Bolts as we go through the week. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.